Hello, this is Jamie Lurch from inthelurch.com, and I am here today to talk to you about some of the fragrances for the new soaps that you will see in my shop, or that you may potentially receive in the mail, or for fragrances that you've already seen in my shop prior to today. So, a couple of things. First of all, I made some new sample bars. These sample bars are no longer available on my website. These are a rebatch duo bar, and they are sample sized, so these are less than 4 ounces. They come in between 2.5 and 3 ounces of soap. Now, a couple of things. So, I don't know how many of you out there know that rebatch soap is ugly. Okay, it's ugly. It's usually comes out of reddish color to a grayish color. For my rebatch, if it comes out a grayish color, I add activated charcoal. If it comes out like a browny poopyish color, I add rose clay and make it a brick red color. But I don't add any fragrance to my rebatch soap. What I do is I take my rebatch soap, I put it into a mold, and then I cut it up into triangles and then put it back in the same exact mold. And then I add half a pound, in this case because my molds are small, half a pound of some other soap to it in order to sort of give it a fragrance and some colorants and make it pretty. So these soaps are what I call samples. These don't get sold as samples. I don't typically sell samples. I will be selling samples in my collection because I can, and because I want to be able to provide my customers with an option of purchasing samples. Those samples, though, are made with the intention, or that's a whole batch of soap for those samples, and that batch of soap is made with the intention of being cut up into samples. And I like that much better because I can determine the ounce and be more accurate on ounces and everything else. So these bars of soap. So why mess with the rebatch at all? The answer is that I mess with the rebatch because, one, I hate wasting soap because I put so much effort, and it's expensive to make soap, into it. Also, outside of how rebatch soap looks, because rebatch soap does not look pretty at all. Okay, rebatch soap typically does not come out smelling bad. My rebatch soap, it gets hot. It gets up to about 170 degrees before I take it out of my crock pot. It reaches about 170 degrees. And when it reaches that temperature, it basically burns off every fragrance note that there is. The fragrances have a flash point, and it pretty much burns out. So it just smells slightly sweet. It doesn't really have a fragrance to it. It just kind of smells a little bit sweet. But rebatch soap looks ugly, and so it's almost impossible to sell. The crazy thing is that rebatch soap is, well, my rebatch soap is really great soap. I mean, that bar of rebatch soap is hard. Like, when I say my rebatch soap is hard, I mean that soap is hard. So you got a hard bar of soap, and it lathers like a dream. Like, my rebatch soap lathers better than any other soap that I make. Seriously, better than any other soap that I make. And I have made all kinds of recipes. I've been soap making for several years now, and I make all kinds of recipes and have made all kinds of recipes. And I can't get anything to lather the way my rebatch lathers. I mean, that soap lathers up. It's a very hard bar. It doesn't have a nasty fragrance, but it looks ugly. So, to save myself some money when giving away samples to my customers, I add in my rebatch soap. One of the other reasons why I add in my rebatch soap is just for the simple fact that if you put this into a soap saver and you don't know that the other half of the soap is gone, you will use that rebadged soap, and that rebadged soap will last you about, I mean, this bar, even though it's only like 2.5, 3 ounces. If you use a soap saver when you're using this bar, it'll last you a month, despite its teeny tiny size, because that rebadged soap will last and last and last. So rebadged soap is great. It just looks not great. It looks not great. Um, Anyways, so for my soap samples, samples that you may potentially get with the rest of your soap. And I've been changing things up a lot. So my business is brand new. It's only been going on for about 4 months. I have been making soap for several years now, but I wasn't making soap for the masses until recently. So I've been changing things up drastically. So my samples will now look like this. They will come with this kind of paper, these little bees, which make me really happy. I don't know why, but this paper, I like this paper with little bees. Anyways, makes me happy. The fragrance in this, so I moved to a new state before I started this company up, and the closest supplier of fragrances to me, as far as I know right now, and I am investigating some others, but I require IFRA and SDS documentation in order to use a fragrance. And Nurture Soap is actually the closest supplier to me, so I've been trying out some of their fragrance oils, and for this particular one, I used Autumn Equinox, which you will also find on the front of the soap. And so here's what the back of the soap looks like, and you will see under fragrance, I type in there Nurture Soap, and it's this fragrance, Autumn Equinox, and that's the little disclaimer that tells you where to go, and your SDS IFRA documentation. So Autumn Equinox. So first of all, let me see. I haven't had great luck with Nurture Soap fragrances thus far. I have purchased one fragrance oil from them that I absolutely, hands down, best fragrance oil I've ever smelled. It was recommended, and the whole reason why I started going to Nature Soap was it was recommended by somebody, one of you YouTubers out there, the woman from Nizumi Soaps, and then it was recommended by another woman who tried it because she said it was great. Apple by Nurture Soap. Okay, Apple by Nurture Soap smells like green, crisp apples. Not fake apples, green, crisp apples. It's a magnificent fragrance. You don't have to use a ton of it, and it stays in the soap for a long period of time. It is another one of those fragrances that when I use it in my soap, it makes my whole soap studio smell magnificent. So, I decided after I bought that one, hey, let's try some more. And since then, I haven't had a whole lot of luck. So this one is Autumn Equinox, but I still, even though I didn't necessarily fall in love with these in the bottle, I use them in the soap because, again, what they smell like in here isn't what it's going to smell like in here. Now, Autumn Equinox in the bottle smells a little bit like, I'm getting a masculine flower type of scent, so that's probably sandalwood or patchouli or something along those lines. And like a bite, there's like a bite to it, like maybe lemons or oranges, or not oranges, it's not that sweet. There's a bite to it, so it's got a bite, and it's sort of crisp and clean. It's sort of crisp and clean. It sort of smells like a men's musk mixed with, like, have you ever smelled the men's Adidas cologne? If you've ever smelt men's Adidas cologne, if you added like a little bit of vanilla musk to that, I think you'd have Autumn Equinox in the bottle. So, fragrance, not absolutely in love with it. I don't hate it. I'm not in love with it. but it does smell, if you like Adidas cologne, it does, there's some parallels there between Adidas cologne and Autumn Equinox. Alright, in the soap. Okay, so in the soap, this smells, it's got a bite to it. It's definitely got a bit of a bite to it. It still kind of smells like Adidas, to be honest. It's like Adidas with a bite. Now that I've got the Adidas like thought churning in my head, I'm having a hard time getting rid of it. But like I don't know, like when they say things like rainforest clean, like that, with like a bite. And I keep saying bite, but like it's sort of edgy. It's a little bit edgy, or makes you feel a little bit edgy when you smell it. Bite to it. You know, some people might describe this also as sort of like a watery sort of smell, like maybe a beach or something like that. Because now that I say beach, I kind of get the like undertone of like sunscreen, but not really. I don't know how to explain it. That's my best explanation. It kind of smells like Adidas with a bite in the soap. I like it better in the soap than I like it in the bottle. This is becoming a theme. I like it better in the soap than I do in the bottle. Anyways, so that's that one. Let's see. I want to make sure that I get them all. Okay, so this is another one by Nurture Soap. And this is a goat milk soap. This is part of my Normally Complex line. This soap was out of stock and I'm restocking it. So when I restock it, it will be restocked with Anarchy by Nurture Soap. So let's get into Anarchy by Nurture Soap, fragrance wise. Okay, so this has a sweet undertone to it. It kind of smells like a sweet alcohol and like a sweet alcohol and a little bit of like a generic nature scent, and sweet alcohol and a little bit of a generic nature scent in the bottle. This is not an atrocious fragrance oil. It's not one that I'm absolutely in love with. I might buy it again, maybe. Okay. So in the soap, this fragrance oil has more of a bite to it. In the soap, this has a somewhat clean smell to it now that it's in the soap, and it's got a somewhat clean scent to it, and it still kind of smells a little bit, it doesn't smell like alcohol anymore. Like maybe something sweet, like maybe they added some kind of fruit under note to it. So that's what that one smells like, if that helps. That's probably not helpful. That's probably more confusing than helpful. Alright. And this one is a Atypically Simple soap. This is a goat milk soap. And it is using a Nurture Soap fragrance oil. This is up to be restocked because it was all purchased out. And the name on this is Bourbon Street from Nurture Soap. So my take on Bourbon Street from Nurture Soap. Okay, that's not bad. So, and aren't you glad all of these soaps are covered in these protective coverings because I'm putting them up next to my nose. Now, as a note, for those of you who don't know, bacteria, funguses, germs, all that stuff, they don't like base or alkaline environments. They don't grow in those environments, which is why handmade soaps don't come with preservatives in them, because they don't need them because of the alkaline nature of that soap. So if you are ever worried about that sort of thing, you don't need to be worried about me sniffing the soap. In the bottle, this is clean, but this definitely has like sandalwood scent to it, some maybe a little undertone of like leather shoes to it. I wonder why they call it Bourbon Street, because I really expected like an alcohol, Texas, Tennessee whiskey or bourbon smell to it. Not really getting bourbon from it, but now the soap, I get a bit more bourbon. I get a bit more of the smoke in the soap. It smells a little bit smoky. Sweet and smoky is what the soap smells like. Sweet and smoky. Maybe a little bit of an undertone of jeans and leather. Sweet and smoky. That's what it smells like. Alright. And the last one. So this is an avocado coconut oil, atypically simple soap. It is a coffee soap. So this one is also was also done because it got purchased out. The fragrance on this is by Nurture Soap, and it is called Earth Meets Sky. So, Earth Meets Sky. Let's smell it in the bottle. Okay. So, in the bottle, this kind of has an undertone of licorice to it. I don't know why, but I get licorice or anise when I get my initial smell there. Take a long breath out. Maybe take an inhale of my coffee. Yeah, I'm definitely getting anise. I get a little bit of a cologne. I got a little bit of a cologne scent that time. So what I mean by cologne is like a musk. What you might find in every single male cologne is like a sort of musky scent. That's what I mean by cologne. Yeah, I'm getting sort of like a sweet cologne, maybe a little undertone of anise in that. Okay, so what's in the bottle is very strong. It's very, very, very strong. What's in the soap? It's not very strong. This is one of those unique scents. Like, I don't have a nice way of putting that. This is one of those unique scents that you might find on people who love nature. It has a little bit of a bite to it, a little bit of tang to it, a little bit of sweetness to it, a little bit of cleanliness to it, a little bit of leather to it. Definitely I don't have a problem with that fragrance oil at all. Again, not in absolute love with it, but definitely don't have a big problem with it. Now, this is my second video on fragrance oils. Thank you so much for coming out and watching this second video on fragrance oils. For those of you who are wondering, I am going to be doing a third video, probably not tonight, but I will be doing a third video tomorrow where I will discuss with you all of my favorite fragrance oils to date that I keep in my shop because I really like them. Alright, and thank you so much for coming here this evening and spending your time with me. Thank you so much. You have a great night.